water. The fish are swimming frantically looking for the water. But you're it. You are it. You are the water. It's passing through you. It is already you. And I think once we stop grasping and once we stop reaching so much, things shift. In that silence, and as it says in the Bible, be still and know I'm God. We find our godliness in that stillness and that silence. It's what's left over when we remove all the nonsense, all the dross, all the things that we over-identify with, our gender, our orientation, our ethnicity, our heritage, our religion, our national order. All this is limiting us. Because remember, we're beings of light. And we're meant to return to that light. We're actually in it, but we just have to remember. One of my favorite books is the Bhagavad Gita, right? I'll be doing a study group with that at the Holistic Center for the next 3 Thursdays. And the book speaks of a war that's about to take place. And the war is between 5 noble brothers, the Pandavas, and they're going to fight against their cousins. There's 100 cousins, the Kauravas. And each army is filled with hundreds of millions of warriors. And the dark side has, demonic forces and giants and dark witches and things like that. And the noble side is filled with, men of spirit and men of God. And just as they're about to fight, the main hero, the protagonist of this great book, Arjuna, asks his charioteer, Krishna, take me to the forefront of the battlefield. I want to assess my enemy. So the chariot pulls up, and there Arjuna looks across, and he sees his grandfathers, who have to fight for the blind king. He's blind in multiple ways. Doesn't see the evil of his children. And he sees his uncles, and he sees cousins, and he sees schoolmates, people that he loves, people that he fought with as children, people he learned with and cried with. And now he has to destroy them. And Arjuna decides, I can't do this. I can't spill my own blood. It'd be better to let them slay me in battle. What good can come of destroying our kin? What ensues from that point on is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. And the conversation is about why Arjuna has to fight. It's really a metaphor for our own lives. It's so hard to change your habits. We're addicted to who we think we are. And that's those tendencies that hold us back, that's the enemy forces. But they feel like a part of us. So that's why Arjuna has this moment of despondency. These are my people. This is part of me. He's got this attachment. I can't destroy them, even though they're evil. They're like a cancer sweeping across the earth and across the cosmos. And it's Arjuna's dharma. It's his God-given duty to destroy these evil forces, but he can't because he's attached to them. And that conversation is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And I will be going into detail when I do this series coming up, but what I'll tell you, the basic premise and the basic metaphor is this. And this is what Steve does well in his meditation class. The chariot is our physical body. It's the physical representation that we use as a vehicle to walk around this ball, this beautiful blue ball we call Earth. The 5 horses pulling it are the 5 senses. The reins to control the horses is the mind. Arjuna represents our lower self, our seeking, striving self, the imperfect, though beautiful part of us that's trying to go higher. And Krishna, his charioteer, is the inner soul, God as a soul. The only way we can get the chariot, our being, safely through this battlefield of life is for us to use the mind to draw all 5 senses in. So we take those horses and we rein them in. And that's the essence of meditation. You use the mind to shut out the apertures of the senses so that the input is not constantly being flooded with desire and imagery and fear. When I did the Matrix talk on Saturday, we had a Q&A afterwards, and one of the really wonderful questions that was asked, it was, what do you think about the state of the world today? and I don't want to go too deep into that because it starts bordering on morbidity when you talk about the state of the world, and I don't want to be there with all of you today. But what I would say is that everything that happens is part of the divine plan. It's a part of it. We can't have a world without having some sense of duality. If I had a white dry erase board behind me and a white magic marker and I drew on it, you couldn't see what I wrote. There has to be contrast, right? You need positive and negative to create a full electrical charge. You need polarity. We can't exist without this polarity, at least not as physical beings. So what's happening in the world today, and I won't mention any names whatsoever, but what's happening the world over, including in this country, is simply the world rebalancing itself. And just as when you get sick, you get a stomach virus, you regurgitating is the way your body cleans itself out and gets rid of what's not good for you. I think this planet is starting to throw up a little bit. And whenever we have world leaders that speak negatively and speak flippantly about war and things of that nature, what it does is it allows other people who agree with that to start rearing their heads. And you can't cut off the head of the serpent unless it sticks its head out of the cave. And I think that's kind of what's happening. A beautiful part of it is that that pendulum of life swings equally both ways. So even though we see this darkness, there's just as much light coming into focus. And I think this group is definitely a sign of that light. We are people who believe in goodness. We're people who believe in justice. We're people who believe in compassion. And we're meant to manifest that on the earth. It's our birthright. It's what we were created for. We were created for the purpose of love. Excuse me, let me shut this off. Phone's blowing up. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us on a path. So how do we navigate this path? And it's funny, I got a few stories, speaking with Vito earlier, speaking with Barbara earlier. There is always assistance, I think, for a noble person. Good people are not left to be alone on this planet. And those of us who believe, those of us who have some faith, we are being guided. And I think one of the ways in which we are being guided are through signs. And I can't stress enough the importance of these signs. So a lot of people call a lot of these events coincidences. I actually don't subscribe to the idea of coincidences. What I believe in is synchronicity. And, synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence. So, Barbara, if you don't mind me sharing yours, because as soon as you said it, I was like, I'm totally ripping that off and using it.
Take whatever you want.
Thank you. Barbara had mentioned to me she's kind of trying to spearhead, I guess you call it an organization.